has been or has it not? Okay, it is recording. Cool, love it.
Right.
Well,
You
I
are a
will.
host now, so you have to let people in from the waiting room. I do not have permission to do that anymore. So,
That's okay. I will look at that. Don't worry about it. People will be in as they go. Cool. mm,
Is there henna on your hand or?
yeah, I went to a party yesterday and they had these henna stickers that you can just like peel and put on. They were
It
so
looks
cool.
really nice.
I have like so many of them in the back. They're really nice. I'm planning on like using them for the next club meeting for my Asian Student Alliance. I think it'd be
Oh,
really fun to
that's a
have people
great
use them.
idea. Everybody loves that, right? That's
Mm-hmm. They're still on there, and it's like it actually peels off like real henna. Like it's like it looks like
oh,
it's
that's
like
really
it's been on
cool.
there for a couple days. It's really nice. Mm,
So, I just wanted to know, do you know how many people will be listening in? I'm sure you would be able to.
yeah, so I think it's a decent amount. It's usually like 10 to 15, but
Okay.
that's usually from my caucus. We haven't done a joint caucus event yet before, so we'll see how many people
How
actually do
many
show up.
join? Awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I will, yeah, I'll send an extra message just to make sure people are coming in as they go. Let's see. Hmm. Um, okay. I let's I think we can wait for like once it hits about 5 8:05 if we have to wait until then, but we'll likely start at like 8:03-ish.
Okay, sure.
I'll let you know if anything of that may. I think it'd be okay to start. Um, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. My name is Ankita, and I'm the current chair for the High School Democrats of America AAPI caucus. I'm Pakistani Hindu, and I will be hosting this evening alongside the Latinx caucus. We're super excited to welcome Mayor Neena Singh, the first Sikh and Indian American woman mayor for the Montgomery, New Jersey township. Tonight, we're going to discuss how we as high schoolers can get involved in the political process, learn about Mayor Singh's path from a senior lawyer to Mayor of Montgomery, and get some advice for anyone thinking about pursuing a career in politics. Mayor Singh, thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to start by sharing a little bit about your journey and what inspired you to get in politics, we'd love to hear it.
Okay, so first of all, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's always such a pleasure to talk to our future leaders, which I believe you are, Vincent is, and I'm sure I have to wear my glasses to Zayed is. And it's so great to be invited. My journey. So I moved from India when I was 19, but I ended up moving to Canada first. And then, with my husband who got, posted, or you want to call, got a job with a company in the US. That's how I ended up in the USA. The other part of the journey would be that once we were in the USA, we were at a place for another 1 year, but then we were in Montgomery. So we moved to Montgomery. My kids were young, and we loved where we lived, and I got really involved in the schools as a PTA chair, and then Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. And that gave me an opportunity to see and be part of how we can make a difference. So that was my first foray into giving back to the community, and it felt really, really good. And then I started, I think it's almost been 2016. After the election, I was a founding member of an organization called Stand Central New Jersey. And that came into being because we felt a lot of people just don't get involved. And how can we educate and empower voters, especially at that point, South Asian, and I would like to say minority voters, to explain to them why it's important to be part of the process, and why it's so important to get engaged and know, how decisions are made and be part of the decision making. So when this opportunity came up at the township, I was thinking twice, I'll be very honest, because it's commitment, it's a good commitment, you're giving back. But I have two daughters and a son, and I remember both my daughters saying to me, "Mom, you're always talking about making a difference, giving back, and this is such an opportunity for you to give back at at a bigger scale and hopefully make a difference." And so that was then, and then I, of course, ran and got elected, and was a township committee member for 1 year, then had the opportunity to become the deputy mayor. And then this year I became the mayor, and it's been an amazing journey. I think the biggest, and I'm sure Deputy Mayor Barragan will talk about it, the biggest benefit, or what you get as a human being, is making a difference in so many lives. People look up to you. They want to know how they can also do something back for their town. I've had so many young girls and young men from the high school reach out to me and ask how they can, make a difference, they can get involved. So that's been the most amazing part of this journey, and really feels, empowering and heartwarming to see that. So that's a little bit about me.
Kate, I think you're on mute.
Oh, I got on mute.
Okay, my bad. You were awesome. No,
Okay.
sorry, not you, me.
Okay.
I was on mute. I was
Okay.
on mute. No, thank you so much for sharing. That's awesome. Let me move on to our next question. How does your identity as a Sikh and a South Asian inform your worldview as a politician?
Okay, so I guess my first identity would be that I am from India. So I grew up in India. So first, Indian American. And of course, my faith is Sikhism. So I always feel that there's different parts of, of you as you come into this, in politics, right? So as an Indian American, you bring what you grew up with, right? I always like to talk about Indian American, Hindu, Sikh. We all grew up with this feeling of seva. Seva means service. And I remember even as a little young child going to the Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple, and my parents making sure that I was doing seva, meaning, I was helping, distribute the food, making sure people had water. And even when you're young, and I've made sure my kids know that as well, it's the small parts of seva, right? And then, of course, we had events where we would, as children, gather money and buy, gifts and stuff and give that out during holidays. So that was another part of that service or seva. So I think that is something that I feel is very essential to my identity. And if you think about as an Indian American, when you grow up in India, that thing from Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you wish to see in the world, is something that you grow up with. And I'm sure that's part of the identity in many of the fellow Indian Americans that I meet, that comes through. And of course, to me, my faith is very important. Faith is what gives you strength. And being a Sikh American as well, I'm very proud of who I am. And I feel very strongly that, we do need to maintain those roots, but at the same time grow. Because as I tell my children, your faith gives you roots. You being your Indian American heritage gives you roots. But then we want to give you wings to fly, because ultimately, they are American, I'm an American, right? Whatever I am, it is, when I take that Pledge of Allegiance at our township meetings or any other event, there is this feeling of pride that, hey, I'm an American and I can make a difference and I can give back to the country which has given me so much. So I think if I look at it, it's like a quilt with different things that make you. And I'm sure as you youngsters who are on this call will also know, that being Indian American, being a Hindu, being a Sikh, or being a Latino, all of these parts are part of that quilt. But ultimately, you are an American, and that is becomes your identity. You're proud of where you came from, and that gives you roots. But the wings that you get are from what you give back in this country, and how you make sure that what can you do. To quote, President Kennedy, when he said, think about what you can give to your country. That comes to me many times. I've told my kids that whatever you do, look back at what you've been given. We all want rights. Everybody wants, these are my rights, these are my rights, but we also have responsibilities. And I feel that that's a very important part of being an American. So I think, as I said, to me, it's a quilt. I love my identity as an Indian American. I believe totally in my faith and very proud of being a Sikh American. And as you've discussed, that comes with a different, you're Hindu, you're Sikh, all of that is your faith, but you're, also being Indian American. And then, of course, ultimately, the entire quilt is that you are an American. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that's so good to know, like the way that you almost hold your culture and your heritage within you, but you don't let it like stop you from doing other things and exploring other options, if that makes sense.
That's absolutely right. I think of it as giving wings to all of you, the youngsters, as well as, making sure that there are all these other opportunities that you can, and you keep your roots, but explore.
Yeah. How does it feel, essentially being the first Indian American woman mayor slash also Sikh mayor of Montgomery, and like has that impacted like how people see you? Have you what has it been like being mayor? How is it different than being like deputy mayor, et cetera, et cetera?
I think people do come up to me. So when I go into the schools, I think that's where I felt with the younger kids. So I was in with the third graders maybe a couple of months back, and all these little kids will come up and they'll say namaste, which is an Indian greeting, and say, "Do you know namaste? My mom taught me how to say namaste." They're so proud of saying it. Then this little girl came up and said, "I'm a Sikh. I heard you are a Sikh." So the kids feel this pride. So I think they always say, even I guess this is corporate America as well, right? They say that you cannot be something that you don't see someone else as. And so for kids to see someone who looks like them is at a position, they can always look at that. And I remember one little boy said to me, and you know what? I'm Indian. And if you're mayor, I can be mayor. I said, why would you be mayor? You should be the president. And his parents were standing behind him and they started laughing. They're like, oh, yeah, maybe. So I think it just makes people feel like, if she can do it and she looks like me, then, the possibilities are endless. And I strongly believe that for your generation, whoever is on this call, and of course, I then Vincent and you, is endless possibilities for you guys. It's just, so much that you can do. And if you ask me what's the difference between being a mayor and deputy mayor, maybe you have to ask Vince Barragan that. But I think you are part of the decision making as a deputy mayor, but sometimes it's easier for people to come to you and say, hey, Mayor, what about my taxes? And what maybe I don't know if Vince Barragan gets that as much as I do, but people see you as that figurehead, so to speak. So I don't see a huge difference because you're still part of the decision making. And of course, if I'm not there, then Vince Barragan is the mayor. He would be running the meetings or whatever. So he's the second in command, just like the vice president. So I don't see a huge difference. It's just maybe the chair is different in the sense that you're the mayor, then the buck stops at you, kind of a system. But otherwise, I think it's pretty similar. You're still the leader, and you're still making decisions for the residents and trying to do the best we can for the community.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to pass it on to Alexandra to talk with Vince about his experience. So Alexandra, take it away for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ankita. So my name is Alexandra Orjuela, and I'm the chair of the Latinx caucus. And we're really excited to introduce Deputy Mayor Vincent Barragan today, the first Latino to serve on the Montgomery Township Committee. So do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you came to be Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, Alexandra, it's so great to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, obviously, or maybe it's not too obvious to others why. But yeah, my name is Vince Barragan. I was elected to our township committee, which is essentially like the city council in 2022, and then this year with Mayor Singh, I was selected to be our deputy mayor. But I think my journey started, before that. I don't know for a number of you, I am the son of immigrants. I was born here in the U.S. My mother's from Cuba and my father's from Ecuador. And I think there's a lot of commonality that with both of these caucuses, especially as I think about high schoolers and people I went to college with who are also of Asian background. A lot of them were, children of immigrants. And I think first and foremost, it's you sometimes you live as a translator, right? You're translating for your parents. And I continue translating for my parents even at my age and at their ages. But yeah, I was very lucky. This country, really made a huge difference for my parents. Fleeing political and economic, challenges, and they really found the American dream. And so I kind of was really raised to be very patriotic, and I wanted to continue that. So I served in the military for 4 years. I always wanted to go, but it's also a way for me to finance going to New York University. There was no way my parents were going to be able to afford sending me to NYU, and it was my decision. I wanted to go to the military, and it was great. Went to college, served my country for 4 years. But before that, one summer, and here's my shameless plug for the Latin Caucus, an incredible organization called the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. I think a number of you might be alumni or have participated, but I was able to do an internship the summer before in Congress, the summer before I started college, and it was a huge difference for me. And it really, I think, put that bug in me of public service, be after it in the military. So again, fast forward, served my country, then I did what a lot of people do, right? They get out of the military and you start working, you build a family, and you get busy, right? And what happens during that time is that the world moves over, and the people who are really engaged in the political process make a lot of decisions. And then fast forward to 2020, Biden gets reelected, and then January 6th happened, essentially 4 years ago. And I just and I was sitting in this room right here. And I know a number of you probably were not born when 9/11 happened, but I was in the army when it was 9/11. I just remember being really angry. I went to college in New York City. my sister lived in New York City. I was really angry about what happened. But on January 6th, I was crying right here. I just could not believe what had happened. And I think then I realized that I had been delegating my democracy. I had decided not to get involved. Obviously, I was busy. Had two kids, had a great job. Um, but I think I just decided, I needed to get more involved. Luckily, I had connected with some people in our local Democratic organization. This is actually before I met the mayor. But someone who's also a veteran asked me, "Hey, why don't you get involved?" So I joined a veterans board. My only job was to find a guest speaker, and I failed at that. And so I had to be the guest speaker. And I guess some people liked what I was talking about. And then I was asked the following year, like, would you want to run? And maybe similar, concerns that the mayor had when she was asked to run is, well, you have a full-time job, like, you know, being an elected official in most instances, it's a part-time job, but takes up a lot of time. But I looked at my wife and she's like, "You've always been talking about this. Like, if this is what you want to do, we'll figure it out." And so with her support, I put my name in. I was appointed, and then I won election. And so that's how I got into elected position. And then as deputy mayor, I know it's just been really wonderful working with the mayor Singh. And I think you asked the question, well, what's like being deputy mayor or mayor? I think a lot of it depends on the person you're working with, right? Kind of like to hear about presidents and vice presidents. Some vice presidents are very active, some vice presidents aren't. It just depends on the president. But Mayor Neena Singh has just been a great partner, a great collaborator. We have a lot of differences, but I think our values are very, very similar, and I think that helps us, really make good decisions and help kind of drive consensus within our not just within our city council, but also our with our residents, and really trying to optimize best decisions.
Thank you for sharing. That was like really inspiring to hear about how you like went from like the military and like you moved on through your journey and rose through the ranks. So you kind of already answered our first question, but like what's been your experience as deputy mayor? So then our next question is, how does your identity like as a Latino affect your like role as deputy mayor and like with your policies and like areas of focus?
So I'll answer one more thing. So when you're mayor, the buck stops at the mayor, and you're face of the town. As a deputy mayor, I could be a little bit behind the scenes a little bit more, so which I think works well with like both our personalities, and I think it makes us a really good team, right? So you right, like the mayor gets a lot of the questions. They usually will come to me if the mayor's not around, but it also allows me to kind of help shape some of her priorities and do that in background. So which is nice. I enjoy being. I don't mind being in that role. My as my identity, right? I think I think, I think the mayor and I have similar experiences, and obviously I'm the son of immigrants, but I think it's kind of unique when you're the son of immigrants. You're born here in the U.S. You're you're trying to be just trying to get along with everyone and be what you think is normal, but you have this experience, and then sometimes you have your parents maybe not speak English, and other things that other people may not have to deal with. So you're kind of caught in the middle, like you're figuring out which identity. Do you really feel very much more Hispanic, say, and less Hispanic? But I think that also helped me like get along with a lot of people growing up, right? You kind of just had to. And so I think what I bring that identity, number one, is just remembering where I come from, right? And we live in a very nice area, and it's funny because if I knock on doors, some people be like, "Well, what's the biggest problem in Montgomery?" I'm like, "I don't know. I love living here. I chose to live here, and I'm happy to raise my children here. I don't see what's wrong, but it just sometimes depends where you grew up, and I grew up in a much tougher part of New Jersey than Montgomery. Um, but I think that also shapes my perspective. Like I just kind of see things the cup half full. But I also know that I have a responsibility, like the mayor had talked about, like when she goes into schools, and we have a very heavy, Asian population in Montgomery. So she is a huge role model for a lot of these younger students. Same way for me, like there are not a lot of elected Latino officials in my town nor in my county. And also, as an alumnus of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, that's a big deal, right? That, hey, someone kind of went through the process and became elected. And so part of my responsibility is also to help support other individuals, who are younger, figuring out, and, to help think about like how can you be that and like encourage them. But with policies, I think a lot of my I'm pretty moderate, and so I really Mayor and I see things similar. Like we really try to find like a smart balance. Like there's investments that we have to do in the town, right? And really push for the right ones. But sometimes our investments cost money, and so we also have to balance like the tax burden on our residents. We don't have a lot of businesses in our towns where you could balance the tax pieces, and so my background's in finance and accounting. That's I really try to bring some of that insight as we do our budget processing, which can sound really boring, but at the end of the day, a lot of things that you do in a municipality is where you flex your funding and your finances. So
Thank you for sharing. I know you mentioned like supporting like other Latinx like politicians. So could you like explain a little more like what you mean about that and like whether like you've had like any like specific experience you could share?
yeah, I so representation is really important for me. And if you can imagine, there's never, I mean, well, maybe it's not hard to imagine. New Jersey, for all its diversity, has never had a Hispanic woman elected to federal office. Um, and so I'm part of our New Jersey Democratic Hispanic Caucus, and so yeah, try to get involved and obviously anything for people. It was the same thing like with Asian. There's no like one definition of being Latino, Latina, Latinx. I mean, we have different names and different countries, but I think as we try to find representation, that's really important for me. And then when there was an opportunity, I mean, unfortunately, there was a congressman who passed away, a long-term congressman, but then there was the opportunity for Latino who's already a state senator to take her position, and I invested some of my time, and I would say also some of my savings to help support a big fundraiser for her, because for me it was really important to, hey, like to make sure that we have, yeah, again, New Jersey, just per perspective, it's over 20-25% Hispanic, and there's only one, representative of Hispanic descent. So her name is Nellie Powell. I really told her I was here to help support her. She ended up getting elected, and in another week she'll be sworn in as the first Latina elected official to Congress representing New Jersey.
Oh yeah, that sounds so great. That's like amazing how you like support like your fellow Latinx like politician, like you're like trying to make sure like there's representation like such like a key state that has, like so much like Hispanic population. I think we're now shifting into the joint panel discussion, right, Ankita?
Yep, yeah. So I would, me or Alexander would switch between asking certain questions, and you both would be free to answer. You could both answer. If one of you seemed to have answered it perfectly fine, we can move on to the next one. However, that would work. I will spotlight the both of you. I think that'd be great. I'll ask the first question if that's okay, Alexandra.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
cool. What's your favorite? What is one of your favorite parts about your election position?
I think for me, and I'm sure Deputy Mayor will have his answer, is how, as we've all been saying this whole time, representation matters. I think the best part about it is meeting the residents, meeting the young and the seniors. And we were both actually at a senior event a couple of days back. Seeing what they love about the town and how we can help them, and they're just so happy to see us. Same with the students. I think it's just the good part. I think if you ask what's the best part is meeting the residents and hearing from them. Oh, you are both are doing a great job, or we love what you guys are doing. We've been doing a robust Mayor's Wellness Initiative, which is called the Mayor's Wellness, but it's really the team of us as the council doing it, where we do different events focused on wellness. Could be meditation, mindfulness, could be health related, cancer screenings, and people have really appreciated those. So it's nice to meet the residents, hear from them. To me, that's the best part of the job, and I'll let the deputy mayor speak on that.
Yeah, completely agree with Mayor Singh. The other piece I'll add, which is I think on a different part of it, is as an elected official, you're the representative for your town, right? And part of your responsibility, and this is something I've had to learn, is like what it's politics. So running a town is part of it, but the other part of it is engaging with your state assembly elected officials, your state senators, your congressional representative, state, who's ever running for Senate. Like that's a whole nother part of the job that it can be like exciting and frustrating, but it's really important because the truth is, right, if no one's if you're not advocating for your town, like when people think about like, oh, where we're going to do grants and funding, like you might get forgotten. And that's also a really great part of the process. Like as you get a little bit more exposure, whether it's, something that the mayor and I have been trying to fight for is getting bathrooms at a county park, or that's getting funding for, we have some flood zone areas, et cetera. Like when those things come through, that also feels really good because number one is you're getting some of that money back, and the residents are really appreciative about it. And then you also don't have to fund that through like local taxes, which is a big win.
Yeah, this sounds really cool. I love that. Honestly, funding has definitely been an interesting topic for me because I've never actually had the chance to do something like that before, but I've been working on it, learning more about it. I think it's really cool that you continue to do that even past, obviously because money runs the world. But all of that just to say thank you both for answering that. Alexander, if you want to take on to the next question.
Yeah, sure. So obviously there's a lot of members here who are like interested in pursuing a career in politics after this. So what would you recommend to attendees like who may also be interested in pursuing similar career paths in the future?
If I have to say, I would say to get involved wherever you are. If you are a high schooler, then you get involved within your schools. But if you live, and all of you live in towns and municipalities, we have a very robust youth leadership council where high school students can, we have an application system. They apply. Last year, I think we had over 100 students who applied, and we selected 21 out of those, and they get a chance to see government, municipal government at the base level, to see what different committees and commissions do. What does a health board decide? What does a landmarks commission? What is their job? So they get to, and what does a planning board do? So they get to learn, and those could be the first steps, in my opinion, to find out, your interest and see where you want to go. So I say get involved. To me, the first step of, if you want to get into anything, politics or, either government jobs, start getting involved at your age with where you live to give back at that town or, wherever you are at this point.
Yeah, and I'll double click on that. I would just say, yeah, like wait, I'm not trying to patronize, but when you're young, you just have, uh, if you're not tied down with a relationship or a family, obviously economics can always be an issue. But what I would say is, yeah, get involved, like learn how to campaign, learn how to support people's campaigns, and just learn how to do that at an early age. Like versus like me, I started doing this 40s, and I'm having to figure out how to fundraise or building networks. And then I see some 20-year-olds who have already been part, not just like local campaigns, but senatorial and national campaigns, and their networks are like this. So as they're thinking about like, hey, do I want to be the chief of staff of a congressional representative, or do I want to work in state government? Like they have a lot of options. Like there's a couple of people I'm thinking about, some of these, the big leaders of like the young Democrats, whether it's of New Jersey or whatever. So if you're able to do that, and I say that like, hey, everyone's economics are different, but I've seen people whose economics are challenging are still finding ways to kind of get involved, right? Make phone calls, knock on doors, and the more you get used to doing that, I think the more natural it becomes. And then I think, at some point, either someone's gonna like, touch your shoulder and say, "Hey, I think you should be the next one," or maybe you don't wait for someone to tell you that, and then you already have enough of a following to be a primary challenger, right? So depending on how you want to do it. So, but I would just say, yeah, get involved, you know, again, as early as possible, and then, help people win, and then they're gonna help you win.
Yeah, I totally agree. How I first became involved in like HSD was that I became involved in like my local chapter, and like I like canvassed and like I filming, and like I think those are like really important to helping me like become more involved in the organization, just politics in general. And I think it's really cool that you guys are offering opportunities for like youth to get involved and to like see like the government in your area. I know like I would love to do that like if I was in your area. I hand off to
Hey,
Ankita
hey,
then.
before you go there, like I would don't if you want to do that, I would just ask, go set up a meeting with, a local elected that maybe shares your political views, and just tell them I want to get involved. And believe me, like I'm looking at the mayor, like,
Yeah.
we never say no to any help.
Don't.
Believe me, like there's usually just not enough people to work on things. So like just feel emboldened to like do it yourself or just, ask someone for the opportunity. I don't think people are going to say no.
For sure, yeah. I think Vincent's gonna ask the next question. Right.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, Mayor Singh, and what should I call you on this call? I'm really
Deputy
sorry.
Mayor Barragan.
Dep Deputy Mayor Barragan, I just want to say I know the big thing about HSDA is that we're a youth organization. We represent High School Democrats of America. We are the High School Democrats of America. So I just want to ask, how do you believe that the youth vote matters in your community, and how do you plan to continue engaging our voices, the younger voices, like high schoolers and college students, and that whole demographic there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think youth vote matters, even when you can't vote because obviously you're underage at a certain point, but you're in high school. You can influence vote, and I can tell you. And Deputy Mayor Barragan knows one of our youth volunteers. Her name is Netra Shrimal. She has been working on campaigns since she was eighth grader. And not only does she get involved, but she tries to get our message across because ultimately you can influence, you can sit down with your parents if there is a certain issue within your local government or your state government or federal, and have a conversation. And sometimes, as we've discussed, parents are immigrants and they may not know what is going on. You have that front seat of actually influencing and saying, this is what I've heard, let me share this information. So yes, that part matters. And then you yourself, and you can vote. And we had this past election, we had a couple of people who were working on our campaign who were going to vote for the first time, being 18, and they were very excited, and they were able to talk to new voters. So the youth vote to me really matters. We just have to empower the youth to come out, because that's one thing I hear constantly from people, that they can think of the senior vote in the bag because they will always vote. It's just when it's the youth vote, they're not sure. And I think that's in your hands. You can change that trajectory and say, we will make sure that the youth vote is something people can count on. Because once people can count on your votes, you are part of the decision making, because people will come to you and say, what does the youth want? And we will get you that if you can get to the voting booth. So I think it's very empowering. And it's a great question, by the way, Vincent. I love this question. And I think the young people have such an opportunity in this country to make a difference, to get out there, get other people to understand why voting is important. This past campaign, we had about 28 young people from high school, and I think there were two who were still in upper middle school, which is your eighth grade, and who were out door knocking. And there was this confidence when they were speaking to voters, which I think is so important. And can you just imagine those kids as a voting bloc as they grow older? So yes, youth vote is very important. And I'm looking at you guys to make sure that you keep getting this message across to your peers.
Yeah, I'll add that, two things to that is, in New Jersey, it was just passed earlier in the year that if there's a person who can turn 18 by election day in New Jersey, they allow them to vote in their primary so they can decide on their on who's going to run in the general election. And that wasn't because an older adult senator or assemblyman had this great idea. It's because of the teenage interns that were in their staffs, like, why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do this? And the reason I think it worked and got passed, because elected officials aren't stupid. They know that if you're engaged and you get, like if and you're not allowed to vote, you might remember that, like, 2 or 3 years down the line. So something to consider in some of the states, to maybe lobby, your elected officials to see if you can make that happen. The second piece is, some of you may go to college, you may start working. Like, again, if you go away for school, there's a lot of the states do offer early voting or mail-in ballots. Make sure you stay engaged. It's very easy to kind of be out of state, and then you just don't you end up not voting for 3 or 4 years. It's just a huge issue. So to find ways to be able to vote, or potentially consider changing residency if that's an option. At least you could vote, near university.
Well, I have to say thank you, Mayor Singh. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Barragan. I mean, I just have to say, I mean, as to what you're saying about getting involved, about how getting involved, you gotta get involved and they'll recognize that. I mean, I still remember my first experience with HSDA was when Deputy Mayor Barragan took me out in the middle of his campaign with to help the Montgomery High School Democrats write letters encouraging people to vote by mail. And I mean, ever since then, I've been hooked. So I just have to say thank you for being here. And with that, I'll pass it on to Ankita.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Vincent. So my next question is, I've definitely considered running. I'm sure somebody in this call has also considered running. What was your experience like running for office, and what were some challenges and some like tips that you have for any people who are considering this kind of undertaking?
I'm going to speak for myself. Yes, the first time you run, every time you run. I think it's obviously time commitment. You have to be out there, and if you, as student, obviously, it will affect what you're doing as far as your workload is concerned, because you have to make time for all the extra that comes with the challenges, I would like to say, that come with running. And my first experience was very interesting. I remember, I mean, there was a lot of positivity. People were really happy that I was running, but I do remember certain conversations, and I think it's very apt for this kind of a forum, because I knocked on the door and the gentleman opened the door, and then he asked me, his first question didn't ask me what you're running for. I started, giving my spiel about, I'm running for the township committee. And he said, when did you get here? So I thought he meant at his door. And I said, well, just now, I just walked to your door. He says, no, no, no. When did you come to the country? And I remember being kind of a little surprised by that question. This is Montgomery, which, as Deputy Mayor Barragan has said, is a beautiful place to live. But his question to me sort of, and I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I think didn't you just come to the country and now you're deciding to run? What do you know about this country, and what our values are? So sometimes you get people, ultimately, by the time we were both done and I explained to him how long I had lived in town and what all I had done, he was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. But sometimes you will get some people that will look at you and wonder, why did you make that decision to run? And do you have an ulterior motive or what? But you'll get people like that, or you'll get people like who'll be like, oh, I'm so glad you're willing to do this. Thank you so much for giving your time to the town, and we appreciate your service, and the very fact that you're willing to run, because everybody does understand that is a time commitment. You're away from your family. In your case, you're already in college, I mean in school, so when you're in college, you're running, it's okay. But for us, with kids and young kids, it becomes tough. So there's a lot of appreciation, but there's also, you'll get some of these hard questions, and you just have to, I think, have a kind of a thicker skin and just walk through it and know that you're doing this for the greater good. Because let me be very honest, public service is not something that you do for yourself. You do it because you want to do it. It's not, running for office is not something that you do just because, oh, well, I need the glory. I don't know if there's glory, maybe there is, but it's because you want to make a difference and you feel this is the way you can, have that seat at the table, and you can bring the issues that matter to your community, to your residents at the table, and get them solved. So that's my point of view, but I'll let the deputy mayor speak on that.
Yes, I talked about how Mayor and I have a lot of the same values, but we are very different. So Mayor is very extroverted. I would say I'm a bit introverted. So when I think I was very nervous about knocking on doors, and I don't think I was afraid of, of like my safety or anything like that. I was just like, what am I going to tell people? Like, what's like that elevator pitch? What if someone slams a door at me? I know it sounds like it might sound silly, but I think it took me. I remember I had like this schedule. It's a good thing is I'm a planner, so I had this schedule, and I was like, I was supposed to like knock on 20 doors, and then after I did five, I'm like, okay, I'm done for the day. But then, I just started like, hey, how do I make this easier for myself and just keep it, hey, the things I'm going to say, that I'm going to ask people to do. And then, it's like exercising, or like, getting ready to run a 5K. Like, okay, you do a mile, then you do 2 miles. All right, then I get 5, 10, then all of a sudden I could do 2, 3, or 4 hours. And I just kind of got used to the process. And at the same time, I also look for opportunities to listen to what people had to do. The one thing I will say though, running is, and I know we're like, this is the high school Democrats, right? And obviously we're both, the mayor and I are both in the Democratic Party. When you're running, right, sometimes you're knocking on all doors and everyone's a constituent. So, you know, you listen to people what they have to say, and some people are very fired up about certain issues. Obviously, like one thing is if you're being disrespected, which I'll put it aside, but sometimes people have really strong thoughts about certain things and maybe you disagree with them. Part of your job as an elected official is to listen to them, right? And because sometimes even the things you disagree with, there might be 10 cents worth of truth to it that like, oh, I should probably consider this regardless of how if I agree or disagree. So.
Yeah, I think
I'm just a minute. I have to piggyback on that because the last campaign, the deputy mayor did some door knocking, and I think he did the best one. People are like, he's done. He did all his doors. There were people who were finished before others. So I mean, if he says that, I have a hard time believing. But everybody kept on saying, "Oh, he's finished. He's done. He's got all these people. He knocked on doors, no issues." So there's been a big change, or he's just, being modest.
I love that. I door knocked my first time, I think this election season. It was definitely an interesting feeling. I was always a little bit nervous going up to people and being like, "Hi, would you vote for them?" There was a really nice experience, I think, once where I was just like coming up to this one door, but they were doing work on their porch or something. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't go up to them. I don't want to busy them. But I was like, why not try? Maybe they'll be more open to it. And they were super nice. They even said that they were door knocking themselves and they were super excited to see more people coming out. So I think that was like one of the most like memorable experiences of this last campaign season for me. So I think it's awesome that like y'all talked a lot about like learning more about door knocking, even like past I guess when people think it's already like a learned skill because people somehow think, oh, you already know how to door knock, like it's just talking to people. No, it's a lot more than just that. Thank you so much for answering. I'll pass off to Alexandra for our last question.
Yeah. So I know we talked about this a little before about like how the youth can get more involved and like how you recommended just calling up your local government. I want to definitely be looking into in the following weeks. But I guess like what would your recommendation for any students looking to get involved with politics beyond like just attending meetings and like registering like voters?
About attending meetings, you're talking about the DEM meetings, or just to clarify? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like what would your recommendation for students looking to like get involved in politics beyond just like attending like these like meetings and like registering voters for like canvases and like phone banks basically?
Yeah, I think that may be the first foray, to be honest, because a lot of people that I've met over the two campaigns that I've been part of got started in the campaign seasons, right? They got to understand first of all, many people didn't even know what the whole process of voting was, that, what a primary is, and then slowly everybody learns. And then as the deputy mayor also, alluded to it, there are people who, start at a younger age and have a better network. And I think this is canvassing or getting involved in someone's campaign is such a great way for all of you to network, because you get to meet so many people, and not everybody's going to be, even if they're Democrats, not everybody's the same. They're progressive, or they're moderate, where they fall. You get a chance to have these back and forth, and start making your decisions as to, this is exactly how I like to have things, and how can I help others. So yes, I think that's a good way. And I would also strongly suggest, wherever you live, or where you're going to maybe go to college, to maybe attend meetings of that town or that municipality. That, I think, is such an eye opener, to go to these council meetings and see decisions which are made at a local level. And I know a lot of us like to say all politics is local. It is, right? It is the roads you drive on, it's the parks you go to, all the local stuff that you see in a town, and then of course the state and whatever. But everything is so localized. So I strongly suggest that you get involved at the local level, even if it's a campaign or going and attending a council meeting. It's a good way to learn and also network with others.
I totally agree. And I'll just maybe try and go back to high school, and obviously I have a high schooler in my family. But you know, I really do think also sometimes I think we get caught up when I was in high school, I think hey you running for certain like elections like student body president. But there's only one person can win. But the other thing I would recommend is if you're not interested in running, think about how you support someone that you really like and help them with their election. Because I'll just give you an example. So like because you're gonna have those opportunities with like clubs, um, the actual student body stuff. If you go to college, you're gonna have those opportunities. If you're at work, you might be in a union. There might be things like that. I will say, like, as much as the mayor and I are involved in our own elections, I would say we spend so much more time campaigning for others, so the mayor just discussed, like, this past year, and she got reelected, so congratulations to Mayor Singh. But, part of it was like me campaigning for her. So you're going to spend more time, and I would say like 90% of your time campaigning for other people than you are for yourself. And so also learn how to do that because that's all. I mean, I hate to say this, but this is how it works, right? You start building coalitions, you help people win, they remember that, and then you need something for your town, people remember that, and you're always kind of helping each other out. Obviously, you want like same values, and I'm not trying to talk about like cronyism, but get used to also supporting others because I mean, like I said, man, I think the mayor was nodding. Like you're gonna spend the majority of your like once you get elected, it's like welcome. Hey, guess what? Someone else is running, and so now it's your turn to help them keep like the either Democrat majorities or make headways into like Republican headers. I'm just telling you, if you start learning how to do that now, that's a huge opportunity, and then you'll get better at it when you start doing it for actual elected like governmental positions.
That's very well said. I think working on others and working on their elections is very empowering as well. Because when you're able to bring others to another election, once you've worked with them, you're like, oh, this is great. They're going to work with me. So I think that's really, really important.
But yeah, I totally agree, especially with the how like you can meet more people when you campaign. Because I know like when I've campaigned locally, like I've met people who've recommended me then for like other events to do and like other campaigns to help with. So like I definitely agree that's like really important to do it at the local level.
No,
Um,
that's very, very important. And I think you all, listening to you all, I think you high school Dems have such a good idea of what you need to do. And, we are there, the deputy mayor and I are there to support. And as we also discussed what we are doing in Montgomery, especially the Youth Leadership Council, you want to reach out to us, or you feel that, you have someone in your local government who may want to discuss what we are doing in Montgomery, the deputy mayor and I definitely will find time to talk to your local officials to see, anything you need from us, please feel free to, reach out to us. We do appreciate you giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
thank you so much. I think we're opening up the floor now to like general attendees questions. So if you have a question, you can just like, unmute and ask it now.
Yeah, sorry, I put it in the chat because I wasn't sure, but I was wondering what like your long-term goals are for the future of Montgomery, especially in terms of like inclusivity and representation.
Okay. I mean, inclusivity and representation is exactly what the deputy mayor and I are. If you look at it, you can see that from both of us, all we've talked about is that is an important aspect. But as far as Montgomery is concerned, we have some great initiatives that we've been working on. We talked about, I think I mentioned the mayor's wellness campaign and what we have done as far as, and to me, when we say wellness is every aspect of your life, right? It could be your finance. I need to talk to the deputy mayor, but I've been thinking of doing something this coming year about which is more financial wellness related, because that's something that I get questions on from people too, because, if your finances are good, I think you feel well. And there's other ways of doing that. And other initiatives we have some opportunities with the state. We are trying to, there is some land in Montgomery that could be a possibility for us. Recreation space is one that we don't have enough of in our town. And especially indoor, because as New Jersey gets cold in the winter, we do have sports outside, but we don't have enough of a recreation space, which is indoor. So we can have residents, do pickleball inside or volleyball, basketball. We don't have those kind of opportunities. So we're working on that. So there is different initiatives that we are working together for. And when you talk about inclusivity, we do have a robust mosaic club, which brings different people from different aspects or different ethnic backgrounds as well to, come together. We will be doing something with our Chinese community for the Chinese New Year. That's getting planned. So yes, there's a lot of interesting initiatives going on in Montgomery, and I hope this is not our only meeting with you. Hopefully, we can talk in another 6 months, and we can tell you what all we've been doing in 2025. But I'll let the deputy mayor answer that question.
Yeah, everything the mayor said, and I'll just add two things. I think one of the, yeah, I think we spoke a little bit about the demographics of our town. But if you look at like the composition of the volunteers who are on things like planning board, who help figure out like where developers might come in or not, our environmental commissions, things like that that really help drive a lot of the policy making in our towns. They don't really reflect the diversity of our town. So one of the things I know Mayor and I, as we're every year looking at like how do we fill some of these positions, we're really thinking about it like, hey, are there opportunities, right, to bring in really strong candidates, but who also better reflect our community? And then the second thing is, the mayor and I also are responsible for leading our, not as like a police officer, but we're the authority that runs our police department. And the truth is, like, our police department that there does not, the diversity of the police department doesn't really reflect the diversity of our community. And so we are looking to try and find innovative ways to better recruit from our own town and, give, some of the high schoolers like, hey, would you consider a career in law enforcement and to stay within the community and to serve the community, right? And so those are things that we're also thinking about. Like I would say on a weekly basis, we're talking about like how can we really empower our police department to do better recruiting, so that one day maybe, and it doesn't happen overnight, but maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 years, we have a number of police officers who, look and can speak the languages in our community.
Mayor Singh, I
You
think
know,
you're muted.
Still on mute.
Oh, sorry. There we go. I just saw this one question. I think we are coming to the close of our session. And there was this, how does your experience, knowledge of the issues in other areas of the world, like India, impact your own public policy? I don't know if I'll ask Deputy Mayor if he wants to say something on that first about other countries, and then I can follow up. And maybe that can be, if you don't all mind, that will be the last question, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, I mean, I was born in the U.S., but I think part of it is just the way I was, where I was raised. I mean, I did not know like we were below middle class until I really went to college, and then I was like, wow, like um, and my parents just work really hard, and I think like probably like a lot of you, they try to do everything they can to help support you, and like and sometimes work multiple jobs. I mean, I talked to the mayor about like all the different jobs they were doing as like one person was getting education, et cetera, is just trying to make it through, right? The American dream. Um, I think that's kind of what that's what I think about. Like that's the experience I bring in. It's like, hey, and I'm just saying, like the mayor and I live in a very affluent town, very diverse but very affluent town, and so I should also bring that perspective as we have conversations about affordable housing or housing that workforce can afford, right?
Mhm.
How do we kind of make the right decisions to make sure that people's children who grow up in Montgomery can also live in Montgomery? And so that's I think what I try to bring to it. And obviously, I mean, I think my biggest concern is I think about where my parents came from is just income inequality. That's my biggest concern. I think when there's income inequality and people are either hungry or left to fend, I think they'll make really harsh decisions. And I think that's what I always try to think about, like how do we make sure that we have a little bit more balance, right? And everyone can feel that they have an opportunity for the American dream.
No, that I totally agree with that. The American dream being the case in point, and I think that's the question about other countries. Yes, as I'm an immigrant myself, there can be things happening in other countries. Of course, India per se, and of course, Prime Minister Modi was here recently, and I'll definitely get questions on things happening in India. But I always like to tell people that I was elected to a town in New Jersey. and I am responsible for my residence in New Jersey. And yes, I can, being that I'm from India, yes, certain concerns, I can hear them, but I am not part of the geopolitical, maybe if I was at a federal level, I would have something to say on that policy. But being that I am from New Jersey, I'm a mayor in New Jersey. To me, it's so important what I do, what I spend my time on is my duty to my residents who elected me. So that's basically what I can say about the policy in other countries.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for coming on for this BICAUCUS event. We were so excited to have you, and it's been great getting to know you both. Thank you again. And I would just like to pass it on to Alejandra for her last closing remarks, and then we'll take a quick photo, and that'll probably be the end of it. Thank you again so much.
Yeah, no, I just want to reiterate like how like thankful we are that you guys came on here and like told us a little bit of your experience, like being like the mayor and deputy mayor, and like how like your own individual like identities have like affected your experiences. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. I will be probably taking that photo in a second.
I'm going to try and see if I move myself. Does the light get
lighting might be
because
better?
this is
Yes.
yeah, because this is not my house or my room. Is that a little
Alexandra, if you want to also take one, I don't know, maybe both of our
maybe
photos
this
will
is
look
a little
better.
better? I have no idea.
No,
It's hard.
it looked great before and after.
Okay.
Just not in between. When you were moving in between, that was really bad.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Like that, now you're okay. Don't take like 2 steps to the right. There was like a big glare.
Okay, I'll stay right here. Okay.
All right. Three. Okay, I'd love for people to turn on their cameras if you could, but that's okay if you can't. I'll give a second. Gia, you could? Okay, that's chill. Don't worry about it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Let me see if I can't fix it so it's just a little bit better. Okay, this is a lot better actually. 3, 2, 1. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. Okay, these are perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. And like I said, stay in touch. Anything we can do to, help your journey as you, figure this out through high school, we'll be there. Thank you.
And keep up the good fight. I know we're all saddened at the outcome of the presidential election, but I think we're all going to learn that every 4 or 8 years there could always be surprises, but we just have to kind of continue moving forward. So just stay focused, right, and learn and keep it going.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. I'll be ending off the meeting. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Enjoy your evening.